the event of an emergency, I'll retrieve the AED and render aid while awaiting emergency services. Lastly, restrooms are located in the vestibule area adjacent to this conference room. Today at Metro, we are celebrating Take Your Child to Work Day. In honor of this celebration, here are some tips to ensure your child's safety when riding the system. When riding with children, look, listen, and always be alert for yourself and children. Take small children by the hands. If you are using a stroller, take your child out of the stroller, fold it, and if possible, stow the stroller out of the way when riding. Never use a stroller on an escalator. Use the elevator instead. For more information on riding with children or riding the system in general, visit WMATA.com. This concludes our safety contact.
Thank you, Ms. Impastato, and welcome to the Board Safety and Operations Committee meeting. Since this is our first public meeting of the day, I'll ask the Board Corporate Secretary to call the roll.
Chair Drummer.
Present.
Vice Chair Martin Proctor.
Good morning.
Director Haddon-Lowe. Director Haddon-Lowe.
Present in body and spirit.
Director Smedberg.
Present.
Director McAndrew.
Here.
Director Klein.
Present.
Director Santos.
Present.
Alternate Director Alcorn.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Now to approval of the minutes of our April 10th meeting. Are there any objections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. We have one topic on the agenda today, and it's an information update. Today's presentation is an overview of Metro's vision for delivery of world-class transit solutions in the region. And without further ado, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Webster, Ms. Off, and Ms. Impastato for today's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, members of the committee and board. I'm Tom Webster, Executive Vice President and Chief Planning and Performance Officer at Metro, joined by Andy Off and Teresa Impastato, and we're pleased to be here this morning to provide this update on world-class transit. Metro's strategic plan, developed in consultation with our regional partners and the public, and adopted by the board a little over 2 years ago, established a North Star to continue advancing towards world-class transit in and for our region. This has been reinforced, of course, over the past year or so through the DMV Moves regional initiative. In this morning's discussion, we will bring some definition to what world-class transit means, and we'll review the types of investments Metro and the region can make to deliver world-class service, including rail automation and a regional network for fast, frequent bus service with bus priority investments. We will review the benefits and potential impacts of those investments and discuss our next steps for further development. Delivering safe, fast, reliable, and frequent service that operates all day, every day is key to growing ridership and advancing many of our region's goals. Investments that keep Metro's fleet, assets, and technologies up to date will keep the system safe and reliable, provide capacity to grow, and deliver more service at a lower unit cost. Best-in-class service and customer experience will maximize ridership, connect more people to economic opportunities. It will support and generate economic activity and enhance quality of life in communities across our region. Metro is and has been making significant advancements in that direction already. Returning to automatic train operations on the Red Line made Red Line trips faster, more reliable, and more cost efficient. When we return to automatic train operation on the other lines in the system, we will see more of those gains system-wide. When the new Better Bus Network, redesigned Better Bus Network goes live in June, thousands of people and customers will have more frequent service and be able to travel more places all within existing planned resources and again at a lower unit cost. And by offering the innovative alternative Metro Abilities Ride program, Metro Access has improved the customer experience while also reducing costs. Our team will continue advancing these cost-efficient and effective improvements to provide more and better service with the assets and resources we have. Our region has made and is continuing to make a substantial investment in the metro system. The system's existing assets and resources can be leveraged to provide more and better service at relatively low incremental costs. This is because, as we've discussed, the majority of Metro's costs are fixed asset and infrastructure costs that do not vary significantly with the levels of service we provide. However, there are existing infrastructure and technologies that limit the maximum amount of service Metro can provide with the existing system. Rail service is constrained by fleet size, rail car storage capacity, and the number of trains per hour we can dispatch or run through the system's core. And because nearly all of the region's bus routes operate in traffic and congestion, delays and slow speeds caused by that congestion limit the number of people per hour any given street corridor can carry. So future-proofing the system, delivering world-class service that maximizes ridership and grows the economy requires addressing those capacity and service constraints in a way that gets the best value out of the system. So our team believes that there are two core investment strategies for getting the best value from the existing metro system and from the region's road infrastructure. That's rail automation and fast, frequent bus lines with bus priority investment strategies. Both would maximize safety, reliability, and cost efficiencies while also providing additional capacity for more service and higher ridership. The combination of these investments is key to delivering world-class metro service, enhancing the customer experience, and driving ridership growth. Our team also believes that the combination of these investments will also resolve the long-standing reliability and capacity challenges of the east-west blue-orange silver line corridor. Now I'll turn it over to Andy to begin the rail automation discussion.
And good morning, Chair Drummer and other members of the committee, and thank you, Tom. So to start off, just by way of definition, we've talked in the past a little bit about grades of automation, and just so folks are aware, this is based on an international standard. This is not, something that, we're proposing, as a new model. And I think as we'll see later in the briefing, it is well applied, across the world. So grade of automation 1, that is what we're operating today on all lines except red. Grade of automation 2 is what we are operating today on red. So we've talked in the past on how we're one of the few systems that has degraded in use of automation. So in 1976, when the red line opened between Rhode Island Avenue and Farragut North, we were operating grade of automation 2, and then did fall back there. But fortunately, since December 15th, they're now running in grade of automation 2 on the red line. Grade of automation 3 is where the train is accelerating and braking, on its own. There is, however, an attendant, as it's sometimes referred to, on the train. And then grade of automation 4 is when the train is not staffed, by a transportation employee, and the train is operating fully automated. So in a larger context, some of our current challenges today and the decades to come certainly revolve around, the never-ending journey to be safer, more reliable, adding more capacity, and to be more efficient. And so we'll talk, about rail automation today, within those, 4 primary functional areas. From a safety perspective, and Teresa's going to talk about some of the, the tragedies that are related to our trespassing events, but, a huge challenge for our team, frontline operators, certainly in our recovery responding agencies that have to address those things, and then certainly from a customer impact. And then also, some of the, just the human error, just like we've talked about, with returning to ATO and returning to auto doors, technology, is able to do things, consistently in a more repetitive, and consistent way, that does make the system, in fact, safer. So within the context of rail automation, these are all things that can be achieved through increasing our rate of automation. Reliability, certainly, our signal system proper, is the, bar none, the infrastructure asset that causes the most delays for our customers. And certainly, as it is 1967 era technology, the effort and costs needed to keep that, in a state of good repair is certainly significant. In terms of capacity, I think as we've, talked about, and we'll talk a little bit more today, as we've initiated some of these technologies, just automatic train operations, auto doors on their own, we are saving, time, and hence, creating more capacity. As we use, less trains, we then could, parlay those additional resources, to add more capacity. And it's certainly, optimizing the system we have is certainly more cost-effective than pursuing, any sort of major extension. And we'll talk a little bit parametrically about some of the costs we see out in the market for some extensions. And then, of course, efficiency, as with our FY26 budget, able to demonstrate a $7 million savings that we can turn back into the operation simply by, turning on 1967's area technology. You could only imagine what we could do by implementing, modern world-class technology in today's metro system. Some of the components of fully automated transit, I think, we talked about it. It's about, the signal system proper, the rail cars, and of course, platform screen doors. So all of these things are interconnected in a very meaningful way. I know we had the opportunity to take some of the board members, excuse me, to our Greenbelt yard, where we were able to see the rail car signal shop. And when we were getting back to ATO, there were all these questions about, where is this magic computer out on the wayside that's going to be installed or turned on to make this work? It's already there. The rail car doesn't have as much, technology on it, but just as important and has to be fully integrated and coordinated, with our wayside technology. And then, of course, platform screen doors, needed to address, primarily the trespassing, function, but also by definition, to get to greater automation you have to have a way to properly protect the platform. And, certainly full automation is clearly the global standard, whether you're looking at new lines, retrofits, or, the middle picture here shows, Dulles Airport. The picture on the left is Copenhagen, a new line, fully automated, great automation 4. And then, a line I've had the pleasure and opportunity to ride, line 4 in Paris, 100-year-old line, fully automated, pretty incredible, and done while keeping the system in service. So a very complex program, but certainly demonstrates that, irrespective of age of the infrastructure, new technology can be effectively implemented. So across the world, just a visual representation more or less of the previous slide. Unfortunately, there is a gap you may notice, in the United States there. Just about, everywhere else in the world, systems are being built anew or being retrofitted to be fully automated for the very reasons why we're here today, right? Because we know it's safer, more reliable, provides more capacity, and in fact, is more efficient. So certainly, we're here, to demonstrate that, all these properties, have been successful and continue to do that. And we certainly think it's the appropriate model for us to continue thinking through. And I will pass it to my colleague Teresa to talk about trespassing.
Thanks, Andy. Unfortunately, Metro's current system design makes it susceptible to trespassing, and it's a challenge that we face across the entirety of the system. It's also not something that Metro can easily address within our current concept of operations. Without a physical barrier between the platform and the track bed, it is incredibly difficult for Metro to prevent persons from accessing the roadway. Over the last decade, we've averaged 4 fatalities a year from trains striking individuals that occupy the roadway. In 2024 alone, we had 7 fatalities due to trespassing. 5 individuals were tragically killed after being struck by a train, and 2 individuals were killed while train surfing.
That was in 2024.
Correct, in 2024, calendar year. Beyond these fatalities, an average year sees an additional 5 to 10 individuals that are struck and oftentimes very critically injured. The impact from these fatal and non-fatal strikes extends beyond just those that are directly injured in the incident. It also impacts our employees, our operators, and other employees who witness these events and respond to these events. As I've spoken about before, that trauma and added stress can manifest in ongoing psychological maladies that our employees suffer and requires a robust employee assistance program to help mitigate those impacts. These fatalities and injuries are still just a fraction of overall trespassing incidents. Over the last 5 years, Metro has averaged about 10 disruptive trespass incidents per month. To give a sense of how disruptive these incidents can be, we've included 2 recent examples that you see on the slide here. On January 25th, a fatal incident and the subsequent investigation and recovery of the individual's remains resulted in 7 hours worth of delays. And on March 12th, a non-fatal incident resulted in 3 hours worth of delays and totaled over 15,000 late customers. Now that I've quantified the safety impacts of the lack of a barrier system, I'll pass the presentation back to my colleague to talk more about reliability.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. I did mention your signal system. Certainly, if you've ever been, I think some have had the opportunity to be there. It is an electromechanical environment, meaning things are moving, which is a very odd paradigm. In other words, it is not a computer-based system. It is extremely old, and very difficult to maintain. We experience more delays, from our signal system, than any other system for sure. And as it gets older, obviously it gets more and more difficult to keep our vendors, interested in continuing to work with us. Now, I don't want to, conflate, old, such as myself with, unsafe. I mean, it certainly, it is a very functional, safe system as we've proven, over the years, but certainly, needs some significant work in order to achieve, as we discussed earlier, delivering a safer, more reliable, adding more capacity and a more efficient operation. To elaborate a little bit further, so just about every station, junction, and other places in between those, have train control rooms. So we have about a total of about 165 in the system. All of those are hardwired, from the room all, out to the tracks everywhere. So that equates, generally to 700 miles, of cable. All of that cable has to be, hand tested. We do that on a 3-year cycle, to ensure, the signals are moving properly through those cables. And then the system by design relies on the running rails to push the signal. So obviously, that's a very critical piece too. So the intent of this slide is basically showing, and we've used this analogy in the past, I think it is generally appropriate. I mean, we are moving from, a hardwired, or where we want to move is from a hardwired, antiquated environment, to a wireless, more centralized environment. So what we intend, or initial concepts have shown that we could move from 165 train control rooms to approximately 50, what you refer to as these zone controllers. And there are no signal equipment. There's very limited signal equipment in the wayside, so that means less times that our employees need to go wayside, which is really, at the end of the day, why these more modern signal systems are more reliable, simply because they have very fewer components on a much more modern technology frame. In terms of capacity, so if you look at this slide, over in Copenhagen, they're measuring, their throughput, the number of trains they can, put through a certain location over a given, course of time, in half of minutes. So because of, the increased throughput, they're simply able to, deliver significantly more service on the same stretch, of track, because the more modern systems allow the trains to communicate much faster between one another, and still providing the same safe train separation that our current system delivers. Now, this slide may appear intimidating, but it is perhaps one of the most meaningful slides, I believe, in this deck. So if we could follow along for a second. So on the, the y-axis, the GAO 1, 2, and 4, right? So 1 is what we're operating on everywhere but red, GAO 2, what we're operating on red today, and then GAO 4, fully automated, with no operator in the cab. And then as you move horizontally, along the blue bar, we're taking a trip, from Shady Grove, headed south through DuPont, Metro Center, through Union Station, and then back up to Glenmont. And then the red there in the middle is representing the cycle time, or the time it takes the train to berth at Glenmont. Operator to get off, operator to come out of somewhere, go into the lead end of the car that's now facing downtown, towards Metro Center, Union Station, key up and continue their trip. So simply, you can see, quite readily here that even in initial ATO, so what we have empirically demonstrated since December 15th, is that we're already, saving, a train, right? So if you look at the trains required for a 5-minute headway, you could see under manual, we were at 30. And now we're at 29. And we think, as we continue to get better here, and we've already seen us moving closer towards getting to, 28 trains. So what that means is, it's two less trains, 2 less yard moves, 2 less makeups, in the yard. So it's just, the costs are certainly very meaningful. And then if you look at grade of automation 4, fully automated, so we had run a 4-minute headway on the red line, in the past. I think about 2019 was probably the last time that happened. But under manual, you need 38 trains, and then being fully automated to deliver the same exact service, 31 trains. So a pretty significant demonstration on how technology can really bend your longer range operating cost curve. I mean, I think as we talked about, it's just, technology is how you deliver, better service and maximize the outcomes of your existing assets. I mean, that there simply is no doubt about it. You look across the world, organizations that, deliver the highest best-in-class transit are moving to greater automation 4 because of all the reasons we talked about, right? It certainly is safer, more reliable, delivers more capacity, is more efficient. So strategies. So I think, as Tom mentioned, this is very high-level conceptual thinking. We fully acknowledge we have a lot of work to do to think through this. But in general, it's certainly, getting there, requires a synergy, as we mentioned, of implementing, a signal solution, a railcar solution, and a platform screen door solution. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that could look like as we move forward. And I think, I have discussed how important it is to be aligned. The fact that we have an active railcar procurement just presents just an awesome opportunity, to move. I think, if you talk to other properties, I mean, I think, pretty well documented down in Atlanta. They were planning to go a digital track circuit. They awarded a new rail car contract. Rail car vendor had some CBTC solutions, and now they're doing CBTC. That's how, how some of these things work. And I think if you look at properties that are not doing CBTC, the only one, some out in the Midwest, it really revolves around, not needing a rail car procurement at that time because there's just so much efficiency gained and scalability when you're able to do these things simultaneously. So just, we are trying to take, a very deliberate and, comprehensive approach to this. I mean, if not to get too historical, but if you think of, how the original 103-mile system was envisioned, there was a big concept of what we need to do to, support the region. And folks may be aware that that was delivered in 19 different chunks. Over the matters of about 25 years. So it's actually track work contract 1, as I mentioned before, between Rhode Island and Farragut North, and then rounding itself out, the last contract 19 out to Branch Avenue. So we're generally thinking, along the same types of lines where we understand this is a massive undertaking. But what we want to do is, paint a vision of end state. And then think through a phased approach and the connectivity that needs to happen between those phases. So I think, folks are aware it's, the way the system is designed, there are opportunities, to break it into chunks and deliver this program over years, in a thoughtful way and continue to apply lessons learned as we progress and get better. In terms of delivery, of course, with every major program, there's much debate and discussion about, best delivery methods. Our team has spent significant time, and we're going to continue to do that, engaging specifically, the international community. Going back to the slide where we're a little bit void there, in the United States, we really are engaging, best in class to make sure we're doing all the right things here. So, I mean, certainly we think there are ways to do this leaner than maybe some of our peers have gotten out of the gate on. And that's just not because we're better. We've had, an opportunity to learn from them. We want to be in a place where, we have a core expertise, internal to Metro to own this thing and drive it. And then help us, because a lot of this, the time and money, a lot of it comes down to, the testing and commissioning, relative to startup, on the wayside, and we want to get, really good at that and not be overly reliant, on a consultant community, which certainly is going to be part of the equation. But I think our intent, is to get really good internally, and take more of be more vested in, owning the delivery of the program. I did, briefly talk about, this concept of building anew, versus optimizing, the capital asset, that we do have, to open up capacity. I think our team has estimated that, building anew, is probably about, on the scale of 20 times, more costly than leveraging technology to achieve our strategic goals. As mentioned previously. I will just share, and these are, publicly available, facts, and I'm not saying it's necessarily applicable here, but it is good general framework. 2nd Avenue Subway up in New York, they're doing a 3-mile extension, or excuse me, 1.8-mile extension, 3 stations, 7.7 billion. It's rounding out about 4.3 billion a mile. That's just, but that is the cost of building anew, particularly, in a dense, urban environment, underground system. I mean, it is not, not for the faint of heart. It is certainly, costly. And then when we look at the type of numbers where we talked about using Creative Automation 4 to go from, 38 trains to deliver a 4-minute headway to 31, and you think about the type of investments we would need to do that, it starts to, pencil out rather quickly. And I think, at a very high level, one of the, the benefits, cash flow perspective of leveraging these technologies is, it is a long game, and it's not these massive, spikes in cash flow. In general, our initial estimates show that, about $100 to $150 million a year, plus federal grants, would help us get there. I mean, it's an engineering, intense thing. It's not an equipment 30-day shutdown in the summer and you rebuild the thing. It's a longer term thing that, its cash flow curve, is a little more, nice and steady over time, which is helpful. So talking through some of the, conceptual return on investments, I think this is, the team would tell you, a big part of our business plan, that we will be working on and intend to come back to the team, later this year, in December, I believe, to work through how all these things, really, work, and start putting some real numbers on it. But certainly, as we talked about, in terms of train savings, and those types of things, it certainly is, significant. Some of our preliminary costs, and benefits, if we look at, just from a capital, and I will, share, certainly these are, conceptual rough order of magnitude estimates, but we understand, how important it is to, to talk through these things. So certainly about $5.5 billion, for an automation program, rough order of magnitude, with some allocated 3.6, for the rail car and wayside CBTC piece. And then the difference of 2.1 on the platform screen door side. Now, if we quickly look at the efficiency side on what we would gain from, so where we get the extra capacity, from increased throughput and leveraging less of our resources to do the same amount of work, you quickly realize some offsets there of not needing to expand yards, as an example, to add more trains because we freed up trains, from previous technology, enhancements. And then, of course, on the operating side, a lot of work to do here, but certainly, as we've seen with automatic train operation, certainly an immediate, return on operating, cost benefit. So we need to continue to estimate that, but the team believes, anywhere from 5 to 10%. And of course, the numbers we just talked about, $100 and $150 million a year, plus federal grants, that equates to itself rather nicely when we're talking through, $2.5 billion operating budget. And, just to wrap it up, I think just tried to talk through, why technology is the right thing to do to help us optimize, all the assets we do have. As Tom mentioned, we have a very fixed cost structure, and the way to best optimize, the billions upon billions that have been invested over the years to build the tremendous system we do have, to make us safer, more reliable, add more capacity, and to be more cost effective and really get after putting a dent in this operating costs in the years to come, is certainly moving towards a higher grade automation, GA04. And proposed timeline. So we are working through a platform screen door design. We intend to get into some of the heavy lifting of that this summer. And then, as I talked about, coming back in December with, more laid out, kind of the business plan, the details around just a higher degree of detail on some of these concepts. And then in calendar year 26, continuing to advance, that program, have, workshops and continue to engage the international community. And then, moving forward, in conjunction with the board on doing some platform screen door work, in a more meaningful way, out in the field. And I will be followed by my colleague, Mr. Webster, talk about bus service, bus priority.
Thank you, Andy. So we may be breaking the record for longest presentation this morning, so I apologize. So we, yes. Yeah, so
This is two presentations that are just stapled together. It's fine.
Quality counts.
So we're moving now to world-class frequent bus service and bus priority. We know well that customers and potential customers want frequent, reliable, and fast service. Both because they tell us that in when they tell us their priorities in surveys and in other engagements, and more importantly, in how customers respond to improvements in frequency, speed, and reliability. They ride more. The Better Bus Network is adding, as we've discussed, more frequent service this year following a complex and detailed effort to optimize service and schedules within existing resources. Our team's vision for a bus system where our team's vision is for a bus system where customers wait only 5 to 10 minutes for a bus if they use a high frequency route, and no more than 30 minutes on neighborhood and coverage routes in less dense areas. With additional investment, we can continue to improve access and grow ridership with more frequent service. Importantly, there are corridors in our region where we are already providing very high service frequencies because of interlining of bus routes. So one example, H&I Streets Northwest is served by 7 bus routes with 44 buses an hour in the peak period. So a bus arrives about every 1 to 2 minutes on that specific corridor. Also, importantly, another example here, Georgia Avenue has buses arriving every 5.5 minutes, give or take, and carries over 23,000 customers daily. It's about as many customers as the Green Line carries between Greenbelt and Petworth daily. While frequencies are more or less similar on bus and rail, the Georgia Avenue bus customer experience is much slower and travel times are unreliable. Looking at the streets where our buses operate today, roadway infrastructure investments vary across the region. While most of our buses operate in mixed traffic, recognizing the urgent need to improve bus speed and reliability, jurisdictions have constructed about 35 lane miles of bus lanes over about the past 7 years. In one way, these bus priority investments can be viewed as light bus rapid transit with relatively short segments of bus lanes, some of which are painted red, some limited signal priority investments, closely spaced bus stops, and varying hours of operation across the lanes across the region. Our bus frequencies on our frequent service network are in alignment with common standards for bus rapid transit levels of service. So as we look to the future, we're looking for infrastructure that supports and complements that level of frequent service. So our regions and Metro's high frequency routes, so 12 minutes or better service, carry almost 50% of bus customers on an average day. Average scheduled speeds are 7 to 10 miles an hour, and actual speeds can be, in some locations due to congestion, as slow as 3 miles an hour. Increasing speeds and improving reliability will clearly drive ridership growth in these high-frequency, high-ridership corridors, and we believe a coordinated approach to invest in bus priority in these high-frequency corridors will yield significant value for our customers and for our region. This map here shows the Metro bus routes with 12-minute and better frequency. There's an opportunity to expand this and to include local and commuter bus services where, particularly where those services share the same corridor and are interlined with other bus service. So similar to the rail structure, we have this broken down by challenges and improvements in safety, reliability, capacity, and efficiency. On our frequent Metrobus network corridors, we continue to face these challenges that detract from the value and from maximizing benefits we could otherwise expect from the investment in service. Our region streets are getting more unsafe and slow, And slow buses and mixed traffic add to that problem. Slow buses can often result in unsafe driving from motorists who sometimes or often engage in aggressive driving to pass and move around buses, thereby decreasing safety for all road users, pedestrians, and other customers. Buses have a better safety record than private automobiles, and more people switching to buses instead of driving would increase safety. Traffic congestion continues to rise, and bus service is getting slower. We estimate that the cost of buses delayed by traffic adds about $70 million annually. Slow buses sitting in traffic or at traffic signals also discourage bus ridership and make travel times much less reliable. Our region streets are generally underutilized. Cars are not space efficient and will not keep up with our region's expected growth. So again, there's an opportunity, particularly where we are already operating frequent service and have high ridership, to make investments to move more people more quickly. So as congestion grows, we operate more buses to maintain the same level of frequency. So as traffic congestion grows, the runtime of an end-to-end bus trip becomes more and more unpredictable and takes longer. Sometimes a trip can take 50 minutes, another time 58 minutes, another time 60 minutes. So to mitigate this for this unpredictability and accommodate that congestion, Metro increases run trip time for each trip or adds some recovery time to ensure that a bus and an operator have the time they need to get back on schedule. Increasing run or recovery time results in adding more buses and more operators to maintain the same frequency, which means this increases the fleet and the operators needed to run the same level of service, increasing operating costs and adding to the jurisdictional operating subsidy investment for, again, the same level of service. So street space, as we all know, is at a premium, especially in the more dense parts of our region. In urban streets, travel lane can carry about 800 people per hour in cars. Mixed traffic lanes carrying buses and cars can carry about 1,400 people in an urban setting. With dedicated bus lanes, a single travel lane can carry upwards of 2,100 people per hour, 50% increases from buses and cars sharing a lane. So cities, counties, and states across the United States and across the globe have invested billions of dollars to maintain streets and roads. Just the physics and the geometry of that infrastructure and the adjacent development make adding new capacity very expensive and very challenging. So making better use of the streets that we have by prioritizing buses, we can optimize our region's transportation investments. Bus priority measures enable buses to avoid or bypass traffic and traffic congestion and maintain consistent speeds through congested areas. As you can see in these pictures, each quarter and each setting is different. And there's really a continuum of on-street infrastructure and equipment investments that can be made, from queue jumps and signal priority to red painted lanes to fully separated transit ways and entire streets or entire two-way streets that are repurposed as bus-only streets. Metro has, again, worked closely with our jurisdictional partners to prioritize buses on streets in the region. So a few examples here. In the peak period, peak direction bus lanes on 16th Street in the district, we've seen a 28% reduction in crashes because the lanes help calm and better organize traffic. Virginia's Metroway service operates with 90% on-time performance, substantially better than the Metrobus system-wide on-time performance of in the 70% range. Maryland's Georgia Avenue bus lanes improved speeds by 16% for the slowest buses, and during the 2024 summer red line shutdown for Purple Line construction. We moved 900 more people per hour than the road without the bus lanes. And those improvements led to a decision to make those bus lanes permanent late last year. So when measures are implemented together consistently across the full day and for a considerable length of a quarter, Metro, our customers in the region, can recognize benefits similar to what we've seen benchmarked from other cities. So reducing travel time by 25%, as they've seen in Paris, growing ridership by 20%, or reducing traffic collisions by 42%, as they've seen in New York, or reducing subsidy per passenger by almost 20%, as they've seen in Los Angeles. So our jurisdiction partners, bus priority investments continue to show promise. But to deliver on a higher return on investment and to advance world-class transit, planning and implementation needs a more region-wide approach and coordinated to focus again on corridors where there is high ridership and more frequent service today. These are the corridors here again where ridership is high, adjacent to development and activity, and they provide opportunities to grow ridership where bus speeds are low. So the final section here, so moving to the blue, orange, and silver corridor. It's been well established over the years that running the orange, blue, and silver line trains through the same tunnel and set of tracks between Roslyn and Stadium Armory creates a significant reliability and capacity challenge. And we know that as ridership and our region grow, those issues will worsen over time. So we have Metro and the region have been studying and working on these challenges for a couple of decades. And more recently in 2018, launched the blue, orange, silver corridor reliability and capacity study to develop potential solutions for those issues. So from roughly 2018 to 2023, the study team completed a lot of analysis, got public and stakeholder input, guidance from our government and community partners, and developed a range of potential solutions, and then narrowed that range down to the two sort of top options. The option that was determined to be the most cost-effective option at that time was a combination of rail optimization strategies and significant enhanced bus services. However, the potential for that long-term solution was pretty uncertain, although it was the more cost-effective of the options studied. The study found that the option that would deliver the highest benefits for customers, the region, and to address those operational and reliability needs was a new blue line with a separate tunnel, and it's described as the blue line loop option. But given the high cost of construction in the United States that Andy was describing earlier, it would be incredibly expensive and likely many decades to deliver a project of this magnitude and to realize the benefits from an investment like that. So our team now believes that a focus on rail automation and its proven benefits for capacity, safety, reliability, and efficiency, combined with east-west priority bus lanes and improvements of some of our undersized stations will resolve most of the blue, orange, silver capacity and reliability issues for the foreseeable future. It will create better customer transfers and have network effects, support redevelopment plans, increase economic activity, and drive and grow ridership. And all at a much lower cost than some of the alternatives that were studied in the blue, orange, silver planning effort. And then finally, just a recap slide on our next steps. We mentioned we will be working diligently and quickly over the course of the next several months, developing the program plan and business plan for the rail automation program. And again, looking at a new concept of operations and a full life cycle cost approach, not just at the capital outlay. We'll be advancing program delivery readiness and continuing really heavy engagement with our peer systems, particularly internationally, who've done this successfully and where we know we can learn. For frequent bus service and bus priority, we're continuing to engage through the DMV moves process with our regional partners to advance again, coordinated regional approach and regional plan for improving bus. And then on the blue, orange, silver corridor, we are going to refresh our purpose and need and develop a new alternative that factors in rail automation and east-west bus priority, update a cost-benefit analysis there, and deliver an updated approach by the end of the year. That concludes our lengthy presentation. We're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So Tom, Andy, and Teresa, can't thank you enough for the depth, quality, and convincing clarity of this power-packed presentation. You really opened our eyes, and I really appreciate the vision and the approaches that you've articulated. To sum up what we've heard so far, I'll start with a baseline of our strategic transformation plan, STP, where we focused on current operations with continuous improvement. And Team Metro has done a great job there. Today, you've helped us pivot to future operations and perhaps Metro after next capabilities. And by doing so, to be resourced with some other resources, but partially resourced by refining our capital improvement program with a focus on optimizing and leveraging world-class transit solutions. So thank you for that. And you helped us in the beginning by defining what world-class transit investments are, and we get that, and how you intend to help Metro deploy those capabilities to optimize our system that we have in place. And most importantly, you've reinforced the fact that now is the time for us to start making decisions for Metro after next. So thank you for that. At this point, what I'll do is open the floor to committee members if they have any questions or issues. Dr. Lowe first.
That was a long presentation, so I apologize in advance that I have 4 pages of questions.
She doesn't.
I saw on one of these slides when talking about potentially implementing CBTC a reference to that it would be possible to phase the implementation and, you know, instead of like a snake eating a deer in the capital plan, that it could be like gradual infusions to the capital plan over time. And there was a reference to federal grants. So can you speak to the eligibility of CBTC investments for the federal grant programs for transit that exist right now? Are there current programs today that this type of investment would be eligible for?
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. There are federal grant programs designed, there are capital investment grant programs designed for core capacity improvements, and we believe that the rail automation program, as we've laid out here, and again in segments, would be eligible for those types of programs authorized by prior transportation authorizations. We expect there could be some evolution in those programs over the course of this program's timeline, but we think this is a generally a competitive program for those types of grant opportunities.
So competitive is a really load-bearing word in that sentence. Given that there isn't a transit system in the United States that has pursued this kind of strategy in order to enhance core capacity, do we think, knowing the criteria for those programs, do we think this kind of strategy really would be competitive for those federal dollars?
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Like why you speak with confidence and firmness. What is making you so confident?
It is the addition of capacity that Annie described during the presentation that is one of the main factors in the competitiveness of those grant programs. So believe that this combination of investments makes it competitive.
Would we also score better because it's 20 times cheaper per mile than other ways of increasing capacity?
I hope so. We will have to work through that as we move forward here, but certainly that will be part of our business case as alternative approaches to address the issues that we're describing are much more expensive.
Pricey. Okay. It was really clear from the presentation that under CBTC, there needs to be technology on the rail car itself, that's part of how it works. And I want to understand a little better exactly what the implications of that are, because on, let's see, which slide was this? There's a slide where you reference the capital, slide 30. There's a header for capital investments and what's involved, but this list of capital investments does not make any reference to rail car costs. So has the team had a chance to think through how our rail vehicle procurement costs would change under a CBTC scenario?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Dr. Lowe. Under the capital investment, you'll see the 3.6 billion, and it's just noted that investment
Oh, it does say rail cars. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And just as another point, understanding, just how powerful this move to technology could be, there are provisions in the current 8,000 series contract where the builder is allowing space that is currently empty to enable the installation of a future system. So in other words, it was just a forward-looking way of ensuring there was space available on these new rail cars to accommodate any new technology, because typically what happens with these cutovers is at some point in time, the rail car is running on the current technology we have today and then the new technology. So that has been thought through, and the cost is captured there.
Great. Would we also retrofit the 6 and 7 Ks to do CBTC? Or is the vision that we would either replace them sooner, or that just CBTC is going to be phased in over such a long time period that the 6 and 7 Ks will just naturally retire and just be like massaged out as part of the process?
Yeah, I think there still is a lot of thinking to do there. I wouldn't imagine the 6s, would be part of the program. The 7s,
Right.
More than likely. And then there's, the system that's on board, our rail cars on the 7,000 series now, we're confident, would work very well in terms of space and available suppliers to provide, pretty seamless transition there in retrofitting the 7,000 series.
That's fascinating. Okay, so like bigger picture though, that map that you showed of the systems around the world that have adopted CBTC, it just brings to mind for me that there are so many miles of old school signaling in China. In particular, comes to mind for me. How can it be that the parts for those systems are getting hard to find if there's just this vast ocean of transit systems out there that have not adopted CBTC. Is it like, I don't really understand what the supply chain, like, where do we get these parts from? Is it somewhere different from like where China is getting the parts from?
So the signaling industry is an extremely thin market. There are essentially two suppliers, that I'm aware of in the United States. And like a lot of, critical life safety systems, once you have that system, that is the system we have, and we maintain a relationship with that supplier due to a lot of the proprietary nature that revolves around the hardware and the software that drives that. So I would have to do some better research to understand what, is in the Far East, but relative to our, market, we're moving essentially to two different types of track circuits in our system. Which certainly we maintain a relationship with the vendors, to keep those, in a state of good repair. But we certainly pay a premium for that. And they are certainly looking to get out of this market themselves as they move to, better serve, the much more, the broader, more lucrative market, just because it's bigger on a CBTC market.
So there's like a Buy America factor in there as well.
There certainly is that, and then also just the common technology that just because it is such a critical safety system, and Teresa could go through this, the opportunities to mutate that or integrate it with a different system simply becomes cost prohibitive, and you find yourselves in more or less a lifelong, asset-long relationship with the original equipment supplier in those situations.
Thanks, that's helpful. Okay, I'm gonna like mush the first and third sections of the presentation together for these next questions. So on slide 46, you showed that the Blue Orange Silver Tunnel has a maximum capacity of 24 trains per hour. As we move forward with all of this analysis, ultimately, I think what we need to see is like this, there was another slide showing that the full bloop costs $35 billion. But the real question is what like phase one of the bloop would cost and what its capacity increase would be. Not like building the entire loop, but just like building the first part. And then to understand how CBTC capacity improvements compare with phase one bloop capacity improvements and how all that intersects with our projected capacity needs. Like, was the bloop too much? Or we have a range right now of 10 to 25% improved capacity for CBTC. If we specifically analyze the capacity that we need on Blue, Orange, Silver, can we tighten up that estimate and then get a sense of if that estimate's going to be enough to address the future capacity need? I completely understand that this is super advanced compared to where the conversation is now, but logically, that's where we need to end up in order to understand what the trade-offs really are and if this is going to meet the region's needs.
But remember, why don't I take a crack at that? So that's a lot of what you're talking about is what we'll be back with in December. And through kind of a larger business study, for lack of better terminology around it, which is going to really look at benefits and costs, capacity analysis, full life cycle analysis. The only other comment I'd make on that, so December is going to be very big around all of that. And I know we all want answers today, but this is really, we're starting the baseball game today, first pitch of the game. So we'll be back in December with a lot of that. The second part of that is we got to be able to distinguish between, when you say CBTC, that's not what we're talking about. CBTC is a part of rail automation. So they're not the same.
Sorry,
They are not,
GOA4.
yeah, they are 100% not the same thing. So CBTC doesn't change our concept of operations. It might get us some more capacity and some more efficiency. But going to GAO4 gets us significantly more capacity and significantly more efficiency. So they are not the same, and
That's helpful.
and I think that's really important for our language go forward, is if we did one, we get some benefit. If we do the other, all the other benefits. And so we're not gonna get a lot of capacity changes with CPCC. We'll get some, but the real capacity changes when we run in full automation.
Okay. And it was helpful in the slides to see the red line example of how capacity changes under GOA4. But what we really need to see that for is blue, orange, silver, right? Because that's where we have the core capacity challenge. Not that there's no capacity challenge on the red line.
Yeah.
But that's the most pressing one.
And I think, again, back to the thing that Tom laid out at the end, is it's not just about the train network. There's a capacity and reliability that comes with automation, but there's a resiliency that automation will not totally solve. So a good example is medical issue on a train, or we still have to do maintenance. And that's why this crosstown bus rapid transit in combination, plus some station capacity, is also the offset for blue, orange, silver, full, if you will, the bloop. So Foggy Bottom, connecting Farragut, connecting Metro Center Gallery, all of these pieces together provide the entire system capacity efficiency versus the other distinct project.
Okay, I mean, that is-
When we come back in December, we'll visually and contextually explain that out. We're just trying to lay down the initial concepts of thought around that.
Understood. And I think the original, if you go back to the blue, orange, silver study documents, I think that one of the alternatives that's in the study is like what if we just did a lot with buses instead, that I think like starts to help people understand that buses do play a real role in core capacity. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that. The challenge for me is more trying to understand. I had not previously really understood how transformative the capacity gains from GOA4 could be, right? That like in the red line scenario described in these slides, that in addition to the 18% reduction in rail car requirements, I need help walking through a little bit more what the throughput impact of, I just need to understand the math better. This is absolutely fascinating. What factors drive the shift from the initial ATO bars shown on this to the eventual ATO?
Thank you for the question. It is really the transition. So we do our rail schedules twice a year, December and June, because we were launching the Red Line and ATO in December. We built the schedule conservatively, not knowing for certain how the system would perform. Eventual ATO really represents our schedule that will be in effect on June 22nd and forward, with fewer trains for that level of service. That is in June, then offset by super peak Red Line service, so the number of trains will change.
But that's actually, I'm like thrilled to hear that eventual is soon.
Oh yeah,
Really? Which I wouldn't always think that when I hear that word. Okay, I have some questions about the safety piece of automation or of platform screen doors. We heard that there were 4 fatalities per year on average in the last decade due to trespassing, but that there were 7 in calendar year 2024. Just roughly hearing those stats makes me think that there's a trend here instead of kind of a steady state in terms of trespassing fatalities. Should we be looking at that as a graph? Like, is there every reason to expect that this is actually a problem that's getting worse?
So that is something that we look at longitudinally. I do want to emphasize that beginning in 2020, there were some changes made to the National Transit Database, and Metro also changed some of our information collection data. So we don't have the ability to compare like data sets pre-2020 and post-2020. So we're only really looking at a 5-year trend here. What we are seeing mirrors national trends around suicides. And what we are seeing also mirrors national trends around train surfing incidents. So we did have the 2 train surfing incidents that contributed to the final count of fatalities in 2024. Prior to 2024, that was not something that Metro had experienced frequently at all. And that is something that we are directing our resources towards reducing. We've had several public information campaigns. We're working with the families of the individuals that were involved in the train surfing incidents to try and discourage that type of behavior. So I think it would be premature for us to say that we've identified a long-term upward trajectory, but it is something that we are going to monitor.
Okay.
Teresa, I think it might be, just not to belabor this, but very helpful to explain how the very little low risk that we will take compared to the industry at large about a report of a trespasser and kind of our procedure, and therefore then the larger impact of just reliability and operations. Maybe if you could just take a quick second to explain that.
Sure. So when Metro receives a report of a trespasser, we do cease operations to the extent that they are feasible. So if we receive a report from an operator that a trespasser is ahead of them, that operator is instructed to stop their train. We do summon our police and other first responders to locate that individual and remove them from the scene. That requires a very significant amount of policing resources and also is highly disruptive to the system. What we have experienced over the years is sometimes we have situations that trespassers reemerge over time. So we'll have a trespasser that's been identified, they've been escorted from the system, and then they will come back to the system and re-trespass. And that creates sort of a buildup and has a cascading effect on our delays. So we frequently have to run inspection trains when we receive a report of trespassers to ensure that the area is clear for us to enable ongoing train movement without impacting potentially our customers and our operators. So it is highly disruptive when compared across a cross-section of our peers in the industry. Some of our peer agencies that don't have the underground networks that we have, it's far easier for them to locate and address a trespass situation. And other aspects of our peer systems don't take the cautious approach that we take, where they cease all operations and try to identify the trespasser's location and escort them from the property.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yes.
On
Tracy,
slide 24,
Tracy, if I could, what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to table your follow-on questions, get a few other questions from other board members, and then I'll come back to you. Okay?
sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Board Member Martin Proctor.
Hi, team. Thank you so much for the presentation. I only have about 3 to 4 questions, and mainly for awareness perspective. We spoke briefly in the beginning with regards to the program that helps mitigate trauma addressed by our WMATA employees and those. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. So WMATA has made investments beginning in 2022 and carried through in our employee assistance program. Traditionally, employee assistance programs at transit agencies were focused on individuals who struggled with drug or alcohol abuse. Metro has expanded our employee assistance program to be more proactive and focus on ensuring that our employees are given access to resources to provide counseling from a preventative perspective, as well as a responsive perspective. So we have available 24/7, 365 licensed counselors who are available to assist our employees should they be involved in what is defined as a critical incident, an incident that could be traumatizing to them. That service is available for all employees, not just those directly involved, but also those who witness. So they'll be seen by a licensed mental health professional and then appropriately on a case-by-case basis, adjudicated and connected with the proper services. At times that does involve employees being relieved of service so that they can seek that care before they come back. We also have peer support groups when our employees return to service. So we do recognize the cumulative nature of the effects of trauma. So when our employees return to service, we do continue to offer them that peer support network and the ongoing support of the Employee Assistance Program.
Great, thank you so much. Just for a point of clarification, and I might be mistaken, I believe these supportive services are also extended to the family members of the individuals that have been affected.
That's correct.
Thank you so much for that clarification and awareness. I also wanted to circle back around with regards to, there was a slide that was up here that spoke to the hours of coordination with regards to incidents that occur. I was curious, what outside of WMATA agencies do we have to coordinate with, and how does that affect our hours with regards to putting everything back on track when an incident does take place?
Certainly. So I think at times some of the more disruptive incidents actually don't involve the most tragic outcomes. The most tragic outcome of a trespassing incident, a fatality incident involving the trespasser, requires that Metro coordinate with the appropriate responding authority, whether that's a medical examiner, police department. We have to document the entire scene, work with those agencies to ensure that we're recovering the remains of the individual, and then after they release the scene back to Metro, we do have to ensure that the scene is appropriately restored. So any sort of cleaning that's required takes place, and any sort of preservation of evidence that's required for those investigatory services takes place. In the event where we don't have those traumatic outcomes, where individuals are injured, it is far more time critical and sensitive that we coordinate with responding authorities to rescue those individuals who may be trapped under the trains. That involves a series of actions to depower the area, perform an assessment, ensure everyone is clear, repower the area, at times manipulate and move the train set to enable first responders to gain access to those individuals who need that care. So the extraction of an individual from under a train, as you can imagine, is a very delicate, very time-consuming, and requires a very close coordination and choreography with the emergency response services. And then again, after that, we still have all of the same investigatory burdens and scene restoration requirements.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that awareness and for clarification with regards to the actual steps and procedures that take place during and post to actually get everything up and running. And I also, and clarify me if I'm wrong, there's a safety inspection that does have to happen post all of those pieces before the train actually starts getting running again.
Correct.
Okay. Last question, just for awareness. As we are aware, we operate a system that has various concurrent rail lines. And I wondered if we could kind of speak to how this amazing new world-class transit system that WMATA is going to be implemented will be working with and in partnership with these concurrent rail lines. I think that goes.
Hello, ma'am. So ma'am, just to make sure, to rephrase, so I think as we roll out technology, how is that going to work as an example where different lines interline or come together?
Correct. I'm thinking specifically about the Red Line, where I know that we run parallel to Amtrak.
Okay.
And I believe that there is, I don't want to say a signaling partnership, but we do work in conjunction, making sure that all of our trains and operations and technology are synced up and lined up with each other, correct?
Okay, no, thank you, ma'am. So we certainly do have, we refer to these as, common corridors where we share
Thank you.
corridors with, our Class 1 Amtrak partners. We do have rather antiquated technologies that do inform us in the unfortunate event if one of their trains incurs on our right-of-way or vice versa. And then we also have, we refer to it as a dragging equipment alarm, but that's not necessarily part of, the signal system. But I think, as part of this program, we certainly have visions of doing things much more modern, to achieve the same purpose, of keeping our right-of-way safe and, kind of getting away from some of these antiquated technologies, if I'm understanding your question properly.
Absolutely, and that was part of the more lengthy response that was provided to me that I just wanted to put as an awareness point for the public, that we are making sure to address those intersectionalities and concurrent rail trains that operate within the DMV. And if I'm hearing this correctly, this world-class network would upgrade and make that whole system better?
So it wasn't one of the pillars, vehicles, wayside, control center, platform screen doors that we discussed today. But I would imagine it certainly is going to be a part of it, simply because the system today that protects our right of way or notifies us of incursions is tied to the signal system. So there would have to be some sort of engineering and deployment, I would imagine, of a similar system, to be determined.
So a happy side effect.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Those were all my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have some time constraints as we approach the board meeting. And at this point, we'll have Mr. Alcorn, followed by Ms. Klein, and then Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions for me. First of all, on the overall direction on automation, I totally support that. I'm very familiar with the tiny little system at Dulles Airport, use it a lot. Last December, I was on the Copenhagen system, was blown away by those, really they're micro headways. I mean, they're tiny, from one train to the next. And I've also been on the Seoul fully automated system. So clearly we need to start catching up with Denmark and Korea and other places around the world. It's a direction I agree we need to go. But I do have a question about the business plan that talking about for December. So it sounds like we are going to be, that business plan will be looking at the incremental costs and benefits of going from GOA 2 to 3 to 4, which is great. That's going to be a part of that business plan, right? Identifying those costs and benefits.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think what would be also very helpful for us is to know what the decision points are. What will the major decision points be, and roughly when those major decision points would come to us for our consideration. Because, I mean, honestly, we're talking about a significant investment, particularly on the capital side, and we need to make sure that it's worth it, not just at the end, but along the way as we go, certainly in terms of safety, in terms of system performance, and ultimately operating costs. So is that going to be part of this business plan?
Yes, that is our intent, both from a program plan and business plan standpoint, to map out costs and benefits, full life cycle look, and then decisions and milestones along the way, recognizing that we won't have every answer in December, and that it is still a plan subject to future decisions and funding, of course.
Understood. And I'm sure over time it would be iterative to a certain extent as things change and happen. Thank you. My other question is on the blue, orange, silver study. Thank you for the relook. I think this I think if nothing else, I think this provides us at least another way to look at increasing capacity and service in the core. My question is, outside of the core, which I know is the constraint, there are some places where we're seeing and planning on growth. For example, Fairfax County right now is looking at the lane use in Centerville. And long-term, that and the Fairfax Center areas are shown to have heavy rail service. So I guess my question is, would smaller extensions or improvements to the system be considered, or at least be included as options as part of the business planning process? because this slide does a great job of showing how much more service we could get using the existing system and how that would work. Would that also create the opportunity, and I guess will we be able to see the potential for smaller and maybe the phase one blue that you were talking about as well? Will we be able to see those as part of the business planning exercise?
Thank you for the question. I think at this point, our intent, the business plan, is to focus on the existing system and the infrastructure that's out there today, and the investment that's required for that. I don't think that the business plan will preclude future improvements or extensions to the system, but it's a predecessor step to that future.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Klein?
Thank you. I've been working to try to whittle down my list. As Dr. Lowe was talking, I was ticking off questions that she was asking, so I appreciate that. But I have a few more. I'll try to be brief. I think I want to reiterate, I think what I'm hearing from the board, and just make sure that everybody's hearing it, that I think we do have a desire to see some granularity in terms of options. There's certainly the full automation, there's some phasing options. CBTC itself is separate from full automation, so what would that deliver as opposed to what full automation would deliver? I don't know if that's something in terms of doing a cost-benefit analysis, whether you're looking at doing that for each different option or just one full thing.
Thank you for the question, Director Klein. We do intend to do multiple iterations and looks at different components of this. What we expect is, as we've discussed, to achieve the full benefits, it is the full investment, and that will play out in the business case. That said, there are lower levels of investment with lower benefits that we'll explore as part of that.
Correct, and lower costs presumably.
Lower capital costs, not necessarily lower
net
overall life cycle costs.
Fair point. I appreciate that what we're doing here is looking at the bus and rail network together, because I think that's so important and something we haven't always done effectively. I am a little concerned, though, in terms of thinking about, for example, the BOS study and the Roslyn Tunnel capacity in particular, that I feel like the region has been slow to adopt bus priority. We've been talking about it a long time. We've made some progress, but there's so much potential that we haven't captured yet, and I don't feel like we're moving very fast in that direction. So I'm a little concerned about a package to address the Roslyn Tunnel issue that relies heavily on a bus priority network that I'm afraid might take a really long time. It looks like you may have a comment on that.
I do. I think just restating here, we think we need to move much, much faster on a regional coordinated bus priority plan.
Yes.
That is the message that we want to land here, because it is this region's future, and it is what will allow us to resolve some of our current and anticipated issues.
Agreed. And I think if we're going into this, and that's a piece of it, the whole region needs to recognize that we need to really kickstart this in a much more aggressive way. Let me see, what did I highlight to ask? I kind of talked about that. Okay. Can you talk a little? I know whenever we're moving to new technology, there are workforce impacts. There's training and education that's needed, and other sorts of things. Can you just address that a little bit? How are you envisioning the workforce needs here, and how our existing workforce will be able to participate going forward in this?
Thank you. Yes, of course. And this is, I think, importantly, one of the issues where we're learning from our peers in cities that have done particularly these retrofit programs. What rail automation will do is move us to a new concept of operations. So there will be new and different roles likely as this transition plays out and as segments come online over a 15, 20-year period. So we are thinking in the program planning about those implications about transition and training and the factors that we need to consider up front as we're entering into this.
Great. Just two more questions.
So,
One, oh,
Ms. Klein, I'm sorry, in the interest of time.
can I do one more?
We're gonna have to ask that you submit those to Ms. Ellison,
Okay.
and the staff will respond accordingly, and I'm gonna have to move to Mr. McAndrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
It's okay.
So great vision, of course, where we want to head. I think there's real fiscal realities that need to set in at some juncture as well as we look at this. So just for my media friends that may or may not be tuning in, the core focus of our automation program, if we were to baseline what we need to do, mission critical, is signals, correct?
Sir, I think as Tom mentioned, that there are varying levels of capital investment and varying levels of, cost benefit analysis that result from those investments. That there certainly are, ways that can be done differently to produce those different outcomes. And I think, the intent of, this in-depth cost benefit analysis thinking is to pencil that out more definitively so we can have more intelligent discussions. I think to answer your question, in a better way, I think, it is, if you just do, the signal system, obviously you're not going to optimize, your return on investment as you would if you made a larger investment, and you would address, the reliability issues specific to signals. If that gets at, I think, the point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I doubt that there is much. Just trying to rationalize and bring it down to kind of where we're at and where we need to go. Right. So we've talked about signals for a while. There was a great article, New York Times, I shared with my colleagues this week. Their evolution of progress, right? And they did look. New York MTA did look at full automation and ultimately decided that wasn't feasible. After many years of looking at it, they are upgrading their signals and making cost-effective mitigations to try to limit trespassing within the right-of-way. I believe the extensive cost here that we're talking about, and it's not to say that it's a cost that we can't or shouldn't, but it's a cost that we have to. It's signals are core. I think the rest of it is essential to think about strategically from an investment, and I think we're looking at it the right way. But I also think the size of this cost is significant to a region that is facing an economic headwind as we speak. And so, the incremental costs above and beyond where we're at, our capital investment today is hard to see how we get there. I understand DMV Moves is having a discussion, and I'm hopeful and optimistic we can get there. But I also, need to think that through from an investment perspective. One question on the slide that showed the actual cost for this, I believe it was $3 billion for signals and $5 billion for the full shebang. Earlier, when we talked about this as a board in February, I believe we saw numbers that maybe were order of magnitude 2x that size. What's changed? Are we fairly confident we're within, order of magnitude numbers there that aren't going to shift dramatically? Or I'm understanding we're very early days here, but those, going over a couple months from something that was very large to something that's still large, but, half the size is significant.
Tom, but before you, I'm going to take a crack at a couple elements of that, and then I hand over to Tom. So one, I would recommend we don't think of the total number, it's really the annual number. That's what matters the most, because those numbers are, quite frankly, not much more than a basic ROM at this point, because we have no idea of length of duration. Shorter duration, smaller number, right? Segmentation, different number. We might think it's the best thing to do to go Roslyn to Stadium Armory as a phase one, or we go to from the Falls to Minnesota, and we never do the branches. And that could be a benefit cost analysis that we get in the segmentation. It might make sense to go from, Bethesda to Silver Spring, and not on the further out for because of cost benefit. There's a variety of ways we're going to look at all that, right? So those are just massive ROM numbers, and it really is about an annual amount of money that we can program to have predictability to build a program out. Second, when we say costs and that this is more costs, I am kind of responsive to both Board Member Klein and Board. This is the less expensive option. And we got to get everyone grounded around this is less expensive, not more expensive. It's just not more expensive to do this. It is less expensive because it's total cost of ownership, life cycle cost. And this is what December is going to be all about, to really get in the details, explain this out. From operating capital over 20, 30 years, we will spend less money to do this than if we just did signals. And another part of signals is we may not be eligible for core capacity with just signals, as an example, because we might not get the capacity benefits. We might be, we might not be. We might on a segment and not on another segment. So there's so much of this that we are in the early days. We just need the time to work through that business case, segment analysis, benefit cost analysis on those segments to put a true at this point, decade plan together to show how all that works. So I encourage us all to really think about the annual amount of money to build a program versus the overall ROM, because the ROM, none of us really know yet because we don't know segmentation and duration.
So I'll just ask the question and give me 1 minute, 2 minutes here. That answer leads me to believe we have a range, right? And a range might be 2x of what we see on the slide here. And this is maybe the most rosy range that we are seeing here today.
Thank you, Board Member McAndrew. There is one very important change here from the previous planning estimates. What we were seeing here is rough order of magnitude in FY 2025 dollars. Previous estimates had a hypothetical implementation schedule that went out about 25 years and included inflation and escalation and contingency on top of that inflation and escalation. So we're taking a step back, revisiting, as the general manager was just describing, that the segmentation and the duration and the timing of the implementation has a direct impact on cost estimates and eventually the costs. So like I said, it's a step back to look at this in today's dollars, recognizing we're looking at scenarios for implementation.
Got it. So I look forward to this discussion. I think that we're approaching it the right way. I'm just making sure that we are level setting it as we can when we have public discussions on this. I think that there's gradient paths towards full automation. We heard some of segmentation. There's other technologies that are out there, not on the map. Was Stockholm, who approached, I believe, going fully autonomous, and then ultimately decided it was too costly to put up platform screen doors, and they didn't see the benefit or the ROI. Now they're using, other detection approaches. And so I think as we have this discussion, I think we should be, again, there's a reason we have a vision, but we need to be real with the variability of optionality of not just segments, but also technology or approaches. And that has real cost implications and different types of outcomes, right? And we have a policy decision ahead of us at that stage, as well as an investment decision. The pilot, I'd love to get a better sense of kind of why it is where it is versus, a station that may make more sense of segmentation, right? Roslyn to Stadium Armory. Why aren't we putting it at, say, Chinatown, right? Where we clearly have issues around crowding and bunching and platform capacity challenges. So, but I also think that there's a cost here. Just rough order of magnitude. Madrid recently updated theirs, and I, may or may not have the data right, but orders of magnitude cheaper by mile or by foot on a platform, and they did a whole line, right? So again, but 4x may be a little bit too much or too rich for the cost for a pilot. And then on last item on buses, right? So Director Klein asked a great question. And I said this at DMV Moves the other day. Maryland's bought in to the future of where we're trying to head. I think the challenge we have is just thinking about cost sharing, right? So we may own the roads, but there's maintenance costs, there's long-term benefits, who's using and who's benefiting. So there's a lot of discussion about cost savings from operations, and where do those cost savings go? They're still Maryland's dollars or Virginia's dollars or DC's dollars in terms of investing in. So thinking about incentives from this side that helps bring others that are investors to the table, I think is really important to try to speed this up. And so again, it's a policy decision that we should be looking at. With that, thank you for the time.
Thank you. And to board members, please accept my apology for truncating this process. But we do have some time constraints that we have to respect. And I'm just thanking you in advance for cooperating with us in this case. This time, we're going to conclude our question and answers. Okay. Oh, you do have a question? Okay, one more question from the chair.
Thank you for indulging me. If someone could put the slide that shows the map of the world on for a second. So my understanding is that the only system in this state, in the United States, that is doing something comparable is Honolulu. And also my understanding is that this concept has been discussed before at Metro, before my time and before the general manager's time. I think in those of you who have been around, or at least automatic train operations, maybe 2018, I'm going to screw up the dates, but my understanding is not, a few times over the years. So where I'm going is why didn't it move forward previously, and what's different now?
Thank you, ma'am. I will do my best to answer. So as a matter of fact, just in preparation for this, I have a briefing that I presented in October of 21 to the board about communication-based train control purely, right? It was, that was it. We, as far as I know, we've never talked through advancing, a grade of automation, in a comprehensive, meaningful way like we have now. So it was presented, as a standalone program. I couldn't answer accurately, precisely why, the changing winds and priorities and, other, matters. But just from my perspective, we have not talked about, this, vision, but have talked about just the nuts and bolts of, of signal stuff, but not in transforming, how we deliver for the region.
Thank you. Director Drummer, I was going to say, I know that we're operating under time constraints, but I think if I could ask for one last round, I don't have another one that I need to ask, but I think are there anyone who's pending, burning, going to fall out of their chair if they don't ask a question?
I'll give Dr. Lowe the last question.
I'm not going to die. I just respectfully, if time is truly a hard constraint, simply tell me in advance how many questions I can have. Do not sneak up to me after I have started a line of inquiry and then tell me that magically time evaporated somehow. This is an important topic and we should devote all the time that it needs. I'll keep it to one last question. I did have a bunch of questions about the bus presentation, but they are smaller things about tightening up how we talk about bus priority and the ROI that I can share with you offline and that I think are just tweaks to make to the slides in order to strengthen the story that the slides already tell and the great work that the planning team has already done. Referring to slide 24, there's a picture on slide 24. Is this an announcement by WMATA about what our platform screen doors are going to look like? Or is this a conceptual diagram to explain to the viewer what a platform screen door is that has yet to be designed and will be designed by designers and not just engineers?
Yes, ma'am. Your representation of the intent of the photo is wholly accurate. Simply a representation to try and illustrate what a potential solution may look like.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. With that question, we will conclude, and I'll say thank you. And with no items to come before the committee today, with no further items to come before the committee today, we stand adjourned. We're going to take a very quick break before beginning the Board of Directors meeting. See you then.
Good morning. I'm Valerie Santos, Chair of the WMATA Board. Thank you for being here today. We will begin with the approval of the agenda. I'd like to consider the agenda approved as presented. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Thank you. We have 3 sets of minutes for approval. March 27th, board meeting and executive session. The special board meeting from April 10. Wait, there's two sets of minutes from March 27th, which is the board meeting, the executive session, and then the minutes from the special board meeting on April 10. I'd like to consider these minutes approved as presented. Any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Today's board spotlight recognizes employees who competed on behalf of Metro on the national stage, and one employee who is retiring after 23 years of dedicated service to the authority. First, let's talk about the bus rodeo. Earlier this month, 4 very talented Metro employees traveled to Austin, Texas to represent the authority at the 2025 APTA International Bus Rodeo. Their journey to the national stage began here at Metro's own bus rodeo, where their stand-up performances earned them a spot in the international competition. For bus operator Robert Miles, this is far from the first time. He's a champion many times over in the bus rodeo. Please stand. Helping him become a familiar face in the national level as well. His consistent excellence is truly a tradition. And joining him this year are Thomas Runyon, garage shift lead mechanic, Hector Villatoro Perez, bus garage mechanic, and Steven Zunica, garage fleet servicer AA. These individuals, all from Landover Bus Garage, teamed up to bring both skill and spirit to the event, showing the kind of dedication that keeps Metro moving. Do we have a video to show this? I want to see what happened. We want to thank
It's
these.
honestly incredible.
I'm sure. I want to go. We want to thank these gentlemen for showing everyone that at Metro, excellence never goes out of style. It's built day by day, fueled by patience, resilience, and grit. Next, we would like to recognize Leanda Chambliss. Where is she? There she is. We are honoring her today on the occasion of her retirement. After 23 years of service to Metro, throughout her career at Metro, Leanda has played a vital role in advancing the board's mission through key positions to the board in the board secretary's office, strategic communications, and most recently in legal and compliance, where she led management's coordination on board matters. Her work has consistently elevated the professionalism, transparency, and efficiency of both the board and WMATA as a whole. Beyond her board work, Leanda contributed meaningfully to Metro's broader goals, including enhancing safety, promoting transparency, driving performance, and championing employee recognition. Her impact as well has extended beyond her formal duties through mentorship and active community engagement, and she has helped shape a more connected and supported culture at Metro. I would also like to note that a Metro career is a family affair for Leanda. As I understand, both of your parents retired. Oh, wow. Wow. Retired from Metro. And your brother-in-law also is with us, overseeing capital projects. On behalf of the board, I'd like to extend our congratulations on your retirement and our best wishes as you start your next chapter.
Okay.
And I was going to say, I think we have one more. Our board secretary wanted to say something as well.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It is my professional and personal honor to recognize Leanda here today. She's been an invaluable colleague and friend to me for my 16 years here. Given her impressive board work at Metro, my team and I thought it was very appropriate to send her off with a non-binding, don't worry, council, non-binding resolution of appreciation. So whereas pursuant to the announcement of Hope Leanda Chambliss has decided to leave Metro after 23 years of dedicated and exceptional service, a testament to her yeoman's work. And whereas Leanda dedicated a significant portion of her Metro career to the office of the board secretary and other roles that directly supported the board's mission. And whereas throughout her tenure, Leanda's work consistently elevated the board's and Metro standards of professionalism, transparency, and efficiency, including her executive communications work with previous general managers, as well as her instrumental role in developing and refining the board document systems. Whereas Leanda was proactive, always willing to look under the hood to identify challenges and collaborate across Metro to develop and implement solutions. And whereas Leanda's influence and tremendous impact at the authority extended far beyond her official responsibilities, including her mentorship, community involvement, and advocating for the advancement of women in Metro and the transportation industry. And whereas Leanda maintained the unparalleled ability to recognize an errant font and work tirelessly to simplify presentations, especially those with so many words. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Office of the Board Secretary wishes to extend its sincerest appreciation for her invaluable service and friendship, and further resolved that the resolution be effective 30 days after adoption so that maybe we'll have cycled through our stages of grief by then. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We're gonna do one and then I see this being yeah, go for it.
Hang on. I need to jump in.
Oh.
Sorry.
Next on our agenda is public comments and our reports from our advisory bodies. So I think we received one public comment in advance, so I'll ask staff to play that now, please.
Hello, my name is James Harnett, spelled Harnett, and I'm a resident of Washington, District of Columbia. I would like the WMATA board to consider the addition of a truncated early morning Silver Line train service that would begin at L'Enfant Plaza or a similar downtown Silver Line station at the start of the day's Metro Rail service, terminating at Ashburn. The current Silver Line first train of the day configuration means anyone trying to catch a flight before 6:30 a.m. on weekdays and 8:15 a.m. on weekends is unable to do so when traveling from DC, Maryland, and most Virginia stations. A new train service could shave 30 minutes off those flight departure time windows. Metro's existing last train of the day configuration allows for anyone catching a train in the direction of downtown DC to connect to any other line in search of their final destination at the end of the day, which is a great service to the region, its late night employees, visitors, and residents. Similarly to this first train of the day service, please evaluate the cost of this proposal and its possible inclusion in this year's or future year budgets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have one person who signed up to provide comments, Sandy Newsell.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Newsell. I'm a resident of Fairfax County, Virginia. I'm also the second vice chair of the Bus and Rail Subcommittee and a Metro Access rider. Today I speak my own opinions. I think that the current political leadership and social aura of disrespect, exclusion, and inequity are rampant. However, I want to thank the board, WMATA leadership, and WMATA staff for your steadfast honoring of listening to and responding to all riders of all abilities. Today, I want to give a shout out to the Metro Access staff, both the leadership and the worker bees behind the scenes. They listen to and respond to Metro Access riders' comments, concerns, and yes, occasional complaints. Even though these are few, when you consider how many tens of thousands of Metro Access rides are provided every day by Metro. And there are all Metro Access rides are just a couple of percent of all Metro bus and rail, fixed route rides every day. So I want to really thank you for your support of diversity, equity, and inclusion for riders of all ages, all socioeconomic standing, and all abilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nuzil. Next, we'll hear from Accessibility Advisory Committee Chair Patrick Sheehan, which is online.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the chance to be able to give this report, particularly remotely today. I'll make it very quick because I know you're pressed for time. But a couple of thank yous that would like to first give is Board Member Martin Proctor, who came to our last meeting and demonstrated empathy and a real keen interest in what is going on with Metro Access, and very much what Sandy just said. We appreciate her support of the AAC, particularly in the area of Metro Access. She asked us for assistance on gaining information in that area with a real focus on making sure that the services that are given out to people with disabilities are effective and reliable, and we appreciate that. We had a report from Jordan Holt, who also gave us a lot of good information to Metro Access. Within Metro Access, her data is going to be used to help us with obtaining better on-time performance, and also affect the efficiency and reliability of the call center and Where's My Ride. So we appreciate her coming to a subcommittee and helping them to put the information that she had into Metro Access services. We also received a report from Elevator Escalator. It's very good to hear that the elevator and escalator, I think it was 261 escalators, are now being monitored for real-time performance and issues concerning reliability, so that we find out long beforehand, before they break, that they are in need of repair. And that's the automation there is really, really helpful. We appreciate that. Our largest and I think most significant accomplishment for last month, thanks to Don Drummer, was a report that was given to us by Prince George's County Transit Vision Plan and Mr. Infami, and also a member of Better Bus Network, that has really improved what we think is going to happen within Prince George's County. We got an overall report that focused in 3 areas. The first dealing with infrastructure, the installation of sidewalks, bus stops, and lighting. We had the report also focused on improvements to the bus system, which incorporated work that is done with Bus Priority Network, which I know we received a lot of information today. What's going on with Better Bus Network, and also the work that Prince George's County is also doing to improve their bus network. And then the last area of the report dealt with micro transit centers, of which they had 1. They're separating that down into 5 areas. And then we will look at things like extending the service times, scope of the service, and hopefully getting to Saturday and Sunday bus service in those areas. We have a lot of work to do within Prince George's County. We will be getting an updated report by the end of April, and then in May we will get more detail, specifically days, times, and when things will be improved in a tech report. So Prince George's County has really stepped up. We wouldn't have been able to make this kind of effort or had this kind of impact without the dedicated service of Don Drummer. He really helped to put this on the priority list, put it on the map, and we are very eager to work forward in this area. Bus Rail Subcommittee, I'm very proud of them. Sandy Nuzell has taken this on and really made this a lot of effort in this area. So we are looking forward to coming to you over the next few months with short-term, long-term, and long-range plans with Prince George's County. We thank the board for their support on all of this, and any questions for me?
Thank you.
Hearing none, thank you very much. We will continue on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan, for your ongoing commitment and dedication, and for your report today.
Thank you.
Next, I think we have another virtual report. Mr. Cole Stout for the Riders Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Chair Santos, and thank you, board, for allowing me to join virtually today. I'm currently on a train up to New York City, so apologize for the background noise. But most of today, I'm actually going to hand over to our annual report chair, Brandon Wu, who is going to present our annual report, which is mandated by our bylaws, and we've continuously worked to improve this report and improve our outreach efforts. And I thank board staff and all of the Lumada staff for helping us get to this point. And with that, I'm just going to turn over to Brandon to walk through some of our findings, and we'll keep it to about 5 minutes or so.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Brandon, as Cole introduced, and I served as this year's annual report committee. So on to the next slide. I guess sort of as a top line, this year the Riders Advisory Council, or RAC, sought to really prioritize outreach to different communities within the service area. We were able to collect over 170 responses to our voluntary feedback form, reaching riders on all Metro Rail lines, 46 Metro Rail home stations, and 41 distinct primary Metro bus routes. And basically in our outreach, we survey riders asking about their top 3 concerns, proposed solutions to those concerns, any positive observations, and provide a rating of Metro from 1 to 10. On to the next slide. So from our data analysis, it appears in a very non-scientific, more, I would say, like an opportunity for writers to express their concerns more transparently and anonymously. These were the 7 top concerns for writers based off of those submissions. So the first and second are based on basically increasing frequencies on Metro Bus and Metro Rail, something that I know that the Safety Operations Committee talked about earlier. You've got improving safety on Metro as the third most important issue, then consistent and effective bus tracking, rail and bus fare evasion, maintenance and technical issue responses, and cleanliness to round out the top 7. Next slide. So in terms of the feedback that we got, what was really great was that members of the RAC, in addition to writers, really provided comprehensive solutions to some of the issues and problems that they pointed out within the system last year. So for instance, I've taken the top 3 problems here: Metro bus delays, Metro crowding, safety at Metro, and also included some of the examples of these solutions that the RAC kind of also agreed to in addition to what writers proposed. Our goal this year with this annual report, just like in years past, is to provide substantive input that hopefully can be incorporated into WMATA's decision making. So as you can see, things like regional cooperation on bus lanes, transit priority tech, and enforcement for Metro bus, maximizing 8-car 8000 series trains during commute times for Metro rail crowding. And with safety on Metro, we had a lot of great substantive responses on things like safe passage teams from DC, mental health and community outreach collaboration for safety, and also things like promoting the Metro Transit Police Department phone and text option on the announcements on both buses and on trains. Next slide. And finally, to round out this presentation, I wanted to include some notable quotes and some of the top positive observations. So in terms of the quotes, you can see writers are telling the RAC that they really feel like their experiences on Metro have been safer, have been more reliable. Staff continue to be incredibly helpful, and notably, leadership seems more responsive, according to many writers. And in terms of top positive observations, we've noticed the things that really stood out were reliability, safety, increased cleanliness, reduced fare evasion, and technological upgrades. And a really great number that we found this year was that riders rated Metro an average rating of 7.5 out of 10, which is up from last year's 7.3. And I think this year we had riders fill out our voluntary feedback form at maybe double the rate or more than double the rate of last year. So it's great to see that that didn't lead to a reduction in that rating in Metro. And with that, I'll pass it back to Cole.
Thank you, Brandon. And we get into a lot of detail in the written report that was submitted as part of our report to the monthly board meeting. I believe it's over a 30-page document, which is so small for me, for an all-volunteer body, but really does demonstrate the excitement that riders continue to have for where Metro is going. And we look forward to improving this report and getting even more outreach and more responses for when we'll submit to you a year from now. And with that, I think we'll take any questions the board might have about that report or anything else that we're currently working on.
Thank you, Cole and Brandon. Please, Board Member Lowe.
Yeah, I just want to thank the committee for doing a great job on that report. I felt that you were shouting in my ear in the part of the report where you addressed the need to follow up on all-door boarding as an initiative. I just want you to know that I read the report, that I have internalized what it has to say, and that I will carry that forward, not literally tomorrow, but that I am keeping that in mind as I think about my own priorities and work plan moving forward.
And Board Member Lowe, I can make a comment on that. So staff certainly wants to try to move all-door boarding forward. We have a couple routes we've tried it on. Our number one challenge, quite frankly, still in the bus system. I mean, outside the comment about frequency and reliability, which we work on every day, I meant in relation to all-door boarding, is fare evasion. We have too much fare evasion in the system. We are working incredibly hard on fare evasion. I know that might frustrate people that pay. They say the people that won't pay are slowing the buses down. We're frustrated with that as well. With that said, we're starting to think through different, I know Leroy's not in the room, but Brian, Leroy, the chief, and others are thinking through strategies of outdoor boarding at some of our terminals where people, sometimes it's crowded getting the bus started, if you will, off on the route, and doing that with personnel to do fare enforcement. So we're working also on some other strategies around fare enforcement as well. So they kind of do go hand in hand. I get that people might be frustrated. We would like to do some more outdoor boarding, but I think it's fair to say that this board has made it loud and clear. I think all of us, we want to see more people pay their fare. It's desperately needed funding to pay for the system. We hear that comment, and I just thought it'd be appropriate to kind of respond.
I appreciate that, and I think actually that's starting at the terminals is really constructive. The additional piece that I would suggest is that just reinforcement of operator training in terms of making sure that the bus is that they're logged in and that the fare collection system is turned on at the point of the terminal should also be a part of that, in addition to having off-board enforcement, which I think TCRP after TCRP has shown is a great way to both increase fare collections and improve safety.
Thank you, Cole and Brandon and Board Member Lowe and General Manager for comments. Any more last observations? Okay, thanks. And that concludes our advisory reports. Now on to the Chair's report. We have some administrative business before us, which are appointments to Metro Transit Police Department's Investigations Review Panel, or also known as the IRP. The IRP reviews completed MTPD investigations and submits recommendations regarding potential changes to policy and training to our Chief of Police. The aim of the IRP is to support continuous improvement in the integrity of MTPD investigations and the thoroughness and fairness of the investigative process. The IRP is composed of 4 civilian members and 3 individuals with law enforcement experience who are not affiliated with the Metro Transit Police Department. Staff recently conducted a recruitment for civilian openings, and we received, if I understand correctly, 24 roughly applications from well-qualified individuals throughout the region. Thank you to everyone who applied. We greatly appreciate your interest in serving on this important advisory body. We are filling 3 jurisdictional seats today, and we'll be appointing the at-large representative next month. I would like to move the following IRP appointments for approval. Aaron Troost as a member representing the District of Columbia with a term to expire April 30th of 2027. Shaniqua Thomas as a member representing the state of Maryland with a term to expire April 30th of 2027. And Rebecca Kelling as a member representing the Commonwealth of Virginia with a term to expire April 30th of 2027. Can I get a second, please? I think I heard a whispered second. Director McAndrew, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All in favor? I heard all aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to our United States Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, for making time to meet with myself, our General Manager, and Chief Anzalo last week informally. His dedication to transportation issues is commendable. This meeting was an essential first step in addressing questions and concerns about Metro, about safety generally on our properties and our system, and ensuring that we are working together to improve the reliability and safety and performance of Metro. Secretary Duffy conveyed his appreciation of our collaboration and reiterated his commitment to taking next steps collaboratively with us to address challenges that we discussed. Our partnership with him and his team is invaluable, obviously, as we're here in the nation's capital, and we work together towards keeping Metro safe and reliable for everyone. We appreciate the Secretary and his team's partnership and collaboration to ensure that we have the resources and support that we need to continue addressing these important issues. Next, I would like to recognize that April is Autism Acceptance Month. Autism Acceptance Month is a time that celebrates and honors the experiences and identities of autistic individuals. Autism, for those who aren't already aware, is a complex brain disorder that often inhibits a person's ability to communicate, respond to surroundings, and form relationships with others. According to the World Health Organization, about 1 in 270 people in the world has autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Some of the profoundly affected areas include social communication and behavior. Autism Acceptance Month emphasizes understanding, inclusion, and support, moving beyond awareness towards meaningful acceptance. And yesterday, Metro celebrated Autism Transit Project participants at a special event at our West Falls Church Station, where we recognized a group of young transit enthusiasts who have autism and who got to enjoy using their voices, announcing boarding and safety announcements while raising awareness about autism and the Autism Transit Project. Next, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that this is the final final board meeting of my colleague, Paul Smedberg, representing the Commonwealth of Virginia. He has served on a member of this board for 9 years, including 5 years as chair. I received a formal notification yesterday evening from the Secretary of Transportation from Virginia, informing us of a change in the future, but we are so grateful that Paul is here with us today, and we will celebrate at a future occasion. But I wanted to acknowledge Paul for a moment, and I would have introduced the colleague who's going to be stepping in next month, but we will do that later. Lastly, I want to note that our next board meeting will be on May 15th. And I think that's it for my administrative announcements. This concludes my report for now, and I'll turn the floor over to our general manager for his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few slides to go through here. Won't take too long. First up, I want to give the board a little update. We sent a little note that we did kind of a special hiring event last week, and I think this is a great example of Metro constantly trying to innovate, adapt, be a little more agile. And what we did is we had about 60 positions. We advertised mostly on administrative roles that are very hard to find. We've been very competitive for a while, things like accounting, procurement, IT, there's some planning positions, things of that nature. And we actually had 1,200 plus resumes came in. Obviously, there's a little bit of job uncertainty in the region. We had 58 interviews, 0 no-shows, and we made a fair amount of offers, and we made them that day. And it's just a really good chance to recognize. I see Sherry Dickerson just walked in. Sherry, Andrea, Darlene, the entire human capital team. And all the business managers for the different departments. I think it's just a new tool in our toolbox, way to do business. There's talent out on the field, and we want to be able to get some of that talent in Metro. So next month, we're already thinking about another one. The 3 areas probably focus on accounting, procurement, IT, digital modernization. Very competitive areas, and want to try to flex into that. So just kind of want to highlight the great work that is being done on the human capital team. Next up, regional opportunity and partnership. We had a big event there at Deanwood on Monday. I want to thank board member Lowe and board chair Santos for being there. This event happened to be in DC as part of our real estate strategic plan. Deanwood's been talked about for a long time, including when our board chair happened to be a deputy mayor involved in real estate. So I think it was a full circle moment for a lot of people. And we're just really happy to announce that we've selected Northern Real Estate, Urban Ventures, and the Nix Development Company for this site. Really appreciate the mayor and the council member being there. I think it's another demonstration of us working with all of our partners to really activate and turn our community a little more transit-oriented community. So really exciting kickoff here at Deanwood. Next up, again, back to our regional partnership. As the board chair mentioned, we had a great day yesterday at our Autism Acceptance Program event. Hopefully you've been in the system and heard some of the announcements, but we're at West Falls Church. Just a real big thank you to all of the young enthusiasts with their announcements and the families being there, but also like Erica, Sam, Jenny, the entire team. So many people here at Metro put in a lot of effort to make this a special day for these young transit enthusiasts. And so this is year 3, and we look forward to next year. I think it's just a special day and putting that together. We also had Earth Day this celebration this week, And we had 3 selected artists from, oh, someone went pretty fast there, Virginia, DC, and Maryland. They were selected by over 60 youth, presented displays showing how Metro contributes to a healthier planet, and their artwork is being shown on digital screens throughout the system for the rest of the month. So it was a really fun event. I want to thank board member Martin Proctor for being there. Our resident art and community board member who's at all of these events. I just appreciate your care so much about these activities. Next up, a little something on service excellence. So, something kind of behind the scenes, but, we obviously get a lot of phone calls every day, people looking for trip planning, smart trip issues, complaints, compliments, all those types of things. One of the things we're implementing, I want to just thank Christy, Sarah, Judd, and the whole team really working on this, is implementing a callback feature. So something that you might see out there with or interact with others. So this is, again, using technology to modernize our system, reduce wait times, increase customer satisfaction, overall efficiency within our call center structure. So that is being rolled out on April 29th. And so we'll have a lot of kind of information about that, but I want to let the board know, again, another example of modernizing our system. Next up is just quickly Tap, Ride, and Go. Cautiously optimistic. We're making progress by the day. There is an incredibly dedicated team, both internally with 3 different vendors that work on this. As we talked about, our goal was to get launch done for World Pride. So we are working on that. More information hopefully coming in the next week to 2 on official date. But we are slowly but surely making great progress, and we know this is going to be such an amazing option for especially infrequent travelers or people visiting the region, and just tap a credit card, tap your debit card, go on the system, and really frictionless experience. So we're getting close on that. Metro Pulse is our app that is in beta testing right now. We have over 250 community members testing. Judd is the lead on this. Lots of other people, Sarah and a lot of others have been working on it as well, but we're getting close to a May launch. That's our goal. The feature that I think I'm the most excited about is real-time crowdsourcing. So if someone will be able to take a picture and text interactively with people at Metro. So we want to find out maintenance, safety, security, any of those type of topics much earlier and get on them. So we're thinking this is kind of a new way to go about business in the transit industry. So we're excited about that. Lastly is Better Bus. Just a quick update. You're going to get a pretty comprehensive update. I think it is the end of the day tomorrow. But again, continue to work very hard with all of our regional partners. Our bus flag installation is going well. We're up to getting close to 50%. Training has gone very, very well. So we're actually getting closer to 100% on that. End of April, we'll have our trip planner out publicly. Lots of other kind of media backgrounders being prepared. We have another board presentation, very detailed, at our board meeting in May. Lots of stuff with elected officials and jurisdictional partners this month all the way through July. And of course, schools will be even past Better Bus all the way into September. So a lot of layers on this thing. We have, if you hear from someone on the community that might be confused about something, has a thought about something, you can let us know. We would really appreciate it. But just thanks again to all of our partners around the region. This is a big lift, and we can't do this without them. And just really thanks to the team. They're working really, really hard at this. And we look forward to a really good rollout at the end of June. With that, Madam Chair, that is my report. Oh, if I could actually say one more thing, sorry, if I could just wrap up, is I know we're going to celebrate Board Member Smedberg at an upcoming meeting, but if I can, Paul, on behalf of the entire staff, it has been an honor to be up here with you. You've dedicated an enormous amount of time in your life to Metro. Metro is better for your service. And on a personal note, when you come to an organization, the chair of the group that hired you and brought you in, it's a special kind of relationship. So we've talked a gazillion times and many, many hours. I know you're going to be a Metro supporter forever, riding the system. If there's ever a bad trip, you're going to text me and let me know. But I think on behalf of the whole staff, I just want to just publicly, I know we'll do a celebration for you, but just thank you for your entire commitment and everything you've done here. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Metro Store. Do you want to do a public announcement about timing of that store?
The store outside, yeah, in our headquarters building, we have our special cherry blossom store. Although we're selling lots of non-cherry blossom gear, we put out some social on that. I think there's been a fair amount of people have interacted with it. I think the hours are, if you will, I think it's 9 to 5. I'm getting a little bit of a look there. I think it's like 9 to 5. Sorry, 9 to 6. Thank you for the crowd in the back. But it's a right way to pick up a lot of gear, and we have some nice summer gear too. So we love seeing people with their pride of Metro. I will say that. Some summer gear that I will not be wearing, but great summer gear nonetheless. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. Okay, so now on to our jurisdictional reports. Director McAndrew. Director Klein.
No report from us today.
Director Lowe.
I'd just like to remind everyone that World Pride is not just one day. Many people keep asking me when this day is, but actually, World Pride will be here in the District of Columbia, May 17th through June 8th. So now is the time to consider your leave or short-term disability or whatever you need to do in order to make sure you're able to fully celebrate World Pride right here in Washington, D.C. Review the calendar, because in a perfect distillation of our local culture, there are so many brunches in so many neighborhoods in D.C. available as part of this incredible celebration. Thank you.
Director Svedberg.
Brunches? So, but Tracy's right. I'm on a little coordinating committee with the mayor's office and others about World Pride. And the one topic that comes up, or actually two topics that come up every single time, safety and transportation. How are we going to get all these people around, particularly at the late night events, which will have extended hours, yes, and in areas that, we may not have transit. So, yeah, I know.
We are going to encourage everyone to take Metro. So the team has been incredibly coordinated with all of our partners. Listen, we're used to doing big special events, so we're excited to welcome. Our theme is going to be Metro welcomes the world. We're proud to welcome the world. So whether it's parade day, concerts, Metro is going to be there. We believe we have the frequency, the staffing to get everyone around. We're queued up for World Pride. We're queued up for a cup, the Caps Cup run. The Nats are playing pretty well. We got July 4th coming up. We got Beyonce. So Metro is definitely the way to get around the region.
Yeah, and there are some places, I saw Leroy was here earlier, the bus people, like at the old BET studios out in, I think it's W Street, way out there. Yeah. Let's just say it's starting at midnight or something, going till, whenever. Yeah. Are we looking for individual service?
I'm not willing to commit to a bedtime.
Yeah. But no, it has come up that, Metro has been a very good partner. So thank you.
Any NBTC related announcements? No? Virginia? Okay. One thing I was remiss earlier, I'm a day late, but I remembered, which is yesterday was Administrative Professionals Day. So just wanted to acknowledge our true bosses, which are the administrative professionals that support not just the board office, but in many of the offices in Metro, without whom our calendars would grind to a halt. So a belated acknowledgement of their work all year round. Any other comments? Okay, with no further business. Oh, sorry. Which is, with no further business to come before the board, we stand adjourned. Thank you for joining us today. We will now move to board executive session. In accordance with the bylaws, I, Valerie Santos, request that the Board of Directors convene an executive session to discuss the following matters pursuant to Article 2, Paragraph 9, subsections A, personnel or labor issues, including discussions of labor contracts, labor negotiations, consideration or interviews of candidates for employment, and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion or resignation of individuals, and D, contractual or other matters involving confidential or proprietary concerns, or the investment of public funds where discussion in public would adversely affect the financial interests of WMATA. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Lohm. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.